This is the Identity Shockwave Podcast, where we explore the journey of self-discovery and the many layers of who we are as we ride this wave called life. 4 questions, real people, endless exploration. I'm your host, Lori Vaitzig. Hey, you made it. Welcome to the Identity Shockwave Podcast, where we explore all things identity and self-discovery. My name is Lori, and I'm so stoked that you are here. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe on wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube, and follow me on socials at Identity Shockwave Podcast, and let's be friends, huh? So the other day, I realized it was on the 25th. That's 6 months until Christmas. Can you believe that we're this far into the year already, and we still have that much further to go? Kind of blows my mind that next week is July, but it kind of puts time into perspective a little bit. And as we get older, there are different things that we have to think about and consider and plan and prep for. Like, we're getting older, our parents are getting older, life gets super real. And, a lot of people come to these points in their lives where it's just like, who am I? What have I done up until this point? Have I gotten to where I want to get to? Is that even the point of it all? In my opinion, it's not. It's the journey. I always say this, like everything that you might read or study will tell you this, that there really is no point to get to. It's about what you learn along the way. And along that way, you figure out who you want to be. What you want to be, what you want to do. And we're always growing every year. We change, we evolve, we become better versions of ourselves. Well, in most cases. At least I hope so for you. It definitely is for me. And today's guest has had quite a life journey. Similar to what I was just talking about. Figuring it out. Having been thrown some major curveballs in life, but navigating them with grace and with strength, and honestly, not taking bullshit from anybody. And this interview was a little different for me. As you know, I'm starting to spread my wings a little bit and not talk to people that I know. And I never met her before. In fact, I'm kind of been an admirer for a while. If you follow certain creators online and you just think, wow, they seem so cool, and you want to get to know them a little better, well, that's what I did. I've been following her and I've been a customer for some time now, and I just thought to myself, I bet this girl has a story to tell. And she really does. She's a small business owner, a 2-time cancer survivor. She's really pulled herself up by the bootstraps and has given it all that she has. You'll hear me call her an artist, and I really think she is. It takes a really special skill to be able to curate things in such a way that is representative of you, that has some cohesion to it, and to find things that are one of a kind. And that could be anything. Right now I'm talking about clothing, but it could be artwork, it could be interior design, it could be music, it could be anything like that. But this girl has a special skill. And man, I love thrifting, and I geeked out with her a little bit about it. And if you are the type of person that loves the hunt for something that you've been looking for, then this episode is definitely for you. I'm so glad I put myself out there and reached out to her because I really enjoyed our conversation. I loved getting to know her, and I think you will too. So let's get into it. Here's Chrissy Manders. Chrissy Manders, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and for those that are listening, this is my first time actually meeting Chrissy. I want to tell the story about how I found you. So I found you on Etsy through your Etsy page, The Seductive Duck Clothing, because for the past year, I have been on a mission to relive my 90s childhood. And I found you specifically because I was looking for a pair of pants that I was looking for a pair of like vintage mailman pants that I had in the 90s. I got it from the store in Huntington on Long Island called the Pink Lady. And I've been trying to find these pants ever since. And the ones that you had, though, kind of gave me more of like a Gwen Stefani look. I'm sure they're probably just like marching band pants.
They definitely are matching outfits.
Yeah, but they're so cool and they like fit me perfectly. And since then, like started like measuring myself so that I can actually find clothes that accurately fit me because especially with Etsy or like if you're on Depop or Poshmark or whatever, you can't always return them. So you want to be like right about like what you're buying. But everything that I've gotten from you has like been a dream. I've loved everything that I've gotten. Everything fits perfectly. It's accurately described and I wanted to talk to you again. And again, like I said, sing your praises because you have such a cool way of curating things. I think you have such a good eye for vintage clothing and stuff that's cool. So I really love just going to your page and seeing all the fun stuff that you post.
I appreciate that so much. Like a return customer is like my biggest compliment. Like, so so
Yeah,
much.
yeah, for sure. And I've been like telling people about your page too if they're looking for something cool and vintage. And I think also because I'm in Los Angeles and everything here is just like overpriced, oversaturated,
Mhm.
picked through. And you're in the Midwest. You're in Ohio, correct?
Yeah, yeah, Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah. So I feel like you probably have awesome stuff. And I'm sure it's also popular there too to like,
No,
it's not.
oh,
Really?
no, that's the thing is like I rarely sell here at all.
Wow.
So yeah, most of my stuff goes to like your area or like New York. They're my biggest customers. So, and it's great because here that's super expensive.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, my prices are super expensive for people here, but, like, shipping there, it's cheaper for you guys.
Yeah,
So,
it's like
it just works out.
it's so affordable in my opinion. But before we go down that hole, I totally forgot to ask you my first question. If you had to boil it down to a couple of words, how would you introduce yourself? What's your elevator pitch?
Midwestern, for sure. Toledo, Ohio. Born and raised here. Haven't really left, maybe Detroit. I lived in Detroit for a bit, but in the last 5 years, I've been doing the selling of the vintage. Before that, I worked in orthopedics, actually, for 17 years.
Wow.
And yeah, so now I work for myself, small business owner, and yeah, that's kind of it.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And so how did you make the jump from working in orthopedics, which seems probably like an office type of job, into vintage?
It was a very toxic work environment. And then for 17 years, like it wasn't always that way, but different, bosses had come in and it was just a very toxic work environment. And at the time, I had already had cancer one time. So you're terrified, like I have to keep working this job to keep my health insurance so I can keep having testing done to check for if I'm okay and things like that. Yeah. So I found out I had the second cancer and I was going to lose my eye. And crazily enough, and it was illegal, they fired me
Huh.
after 15 years because of, I'd be off for this, that, and the other thing. So, yeah, I mean, it was like at the time, obviously a stressful situation because I needed more treatment and things like that. But ultimately, it was like the best thing that ever happened because now I'm just so much happier. I work for myself. I hang out with my dog all day.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, it's the best possible thing that ever could have happened to my life at the time.
Yeah.
So
It's in those moments and in those like super trying times that like just really allow you to just change your path. And even though that was something that I'm sure was like super hard to go through, especially after 17 years of like dedicating yourself to something, I'm so glad to hear it, took you on a completely different path that you truly love. So you had mentioned you survived cancer twice. You're a two-time cancer survivor.
yep, yeah.
Holy. And you seem young, you seem like you're my age, so
Well, yeah, I'm in my early 40s, so I'm 40. Am I 41 or 42? I'm 41.
okay. Couple years apart.
So yeah, but yeah, but it was both times. It was both in my 30s. So yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But, the first one, yeah, it was just Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I say that funnily because I had it everywhere. It was in my neck and my chest and all that, but they call it well, my doctor at the time called it kind of insensitive, but he called it the Cadillac of cancers.
Oh, cool.
So,
Real
like,
cool.
it's one that, like, you can, like, treat, like, it might come back in a different area, well, and then the second one, thankfully, I didn't need treatment for that besides surgery
Mhm.
because the treatment out.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I just had my eye removed and then, a fake one. And that one I just feel like was easy.
Yeah.
It was just, yeah. So besides, and like I can do everything.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't do a lot of now is read because it like just doesn't like work that well. But like there's nothing else I can't do,
Yeah, for sure.
Not like that's
I
holding me back. I mean, I guess it would be hard to take out stitches or whatever,
Oh
but
my goodness.
which I used to do.
Really?
But like, so that wouldn't be like, but I don't care because I'm not doing that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. In high school, my high school gym coach, he was in the NFL. He was on the New York Jets. His name's Wesley Walker, and he had a glass eye. So he played football while having a glass eye too. And also
Yeah.
was a high school physical education teacher too. So it's like you're very not limited to the things you can do. I'm sure obviously it presents its own challenges. But
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And you still got a great eye for vintage.
That's what I love to say. Like when anyone like people say it all the time, like you have a great eye, and they won't know, and I'll just be like, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to laugh. It seems like you have a good sense of humor about it.
Seriously, the best thing to do is laugh about it.
So one of the questions I asked, but I think you kind of answered it, is, was there ever a decision that you made that changed the trajectory of your life? And it seems like, leaving orthopedics, unfortunately, was not a decision that you made, but ultimately turned out to be the best thing that worked in your favor. So
Yeah,
I would imagine you would agree that that was probably the biggest one, but was there anything else in your life that like you made a decision to do this instead of the other thing that just ultimately worked out in your favor?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time of my life, right around there, I was, I was a big partier, and I quit drinking, and so that because I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now, it would just be too chaotic. I wouldn't have succeeded if I had been still drinking, and that changed obviously a lot of things like my health, just like, and the biggest thing I think it helped with was just anxiety in general.
Yeah.
It was like my anxiety back then was just debilitating. I thought I had to live that way, which was, why I kept doing it. But then, stopping the drinking, it like really helped. I used to wake up in a complete panic attack every single morning.
Yep.
And now it's great to not have to like live that way anymore. So that's like something that really changed. That changed a lot. It changed a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it changed, unfortunately, like, and it's fine. I'm like a huge loner. That's what people don't tell you when you quit drinking. It can be like a very lonely like journey because you're not just going to like fit in or put up or surround yourself with people that you could tolerate before. So
Yeah, that's true about it, that it is a lonely experience, but I'm sure, you grew so much internally and you have a different sense of strength. And myself included, once I hit my 30s, I really, curtailed that. In my 20s, I was just like a barfly. And, whiskey was my poison. And I just, it was something to give yourself a little more courage. It was another thing to, fit in, be more social. It was just one of those things that like, is something that comes with age. And I'm glad that you're able to find the strength to be like, you know what? I don't need this. I don't need this to feel comfortable in my own skin. I don't need it to fit in. I'm happy and content with myself the way I am. And I think that's super powerful.
yeah, it's been it's just so big life changer. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I bet like physically too. Like I know for myself, like once I like stop drinking or like, just like curtail all the bad habits, I'm like, oh, I'm suddenly like 2 pounds lighter. My skin and my face is slimmer. How'd that happen?
Right. Just even your skin looks better like almost immediately, I feel like.
Yeah, it's wild. It's so wild.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about your business a little bit. It's called The Seductive Duck Clothing, and I wonder if there's a story behind the name there.
It's just like the weirdest thing. I'd still go to garage sales before, Seductive Duck was ever thought of. And I was dating this guy at the time, and we would just go to garage sales and things. And we had got just this random magnet that was like a mallard. And he was like looking like to the side over his shoulder. And it was a real mallard, like a picture of one.
Oh,
And it was hanging on the fridge. And we'd always say, and this was like right before I knew that like I was going to lose my eye or whatever. It was just one summer, like a summer fling or whatever. And we would always like call it the seductive duck, like on the fridge. We'd always be like, oh, well, the seductive duck. And so then when it came to be, I needed to think of a business name. And, you can go on Instagram and like see something, let's say on a site, and then you want to go back and you didn't save it. You want to go back. I would always forget the names of the people. And then I like lose it forever and be like, oh man, like who was selling that? So that was my point in the beginning, was just to try to like get something catchy. I think it worked in the thing. I think people remember it. But yeah, so
Yeah.
sometimes I'm scared that they think it's something else, but but yeah.
No, I love that was the thought process behind it, because it's definitely catchy. And if you were ever to come out here to Los Angeles, or I guess any big city, we have so many stores and things that are named in such like whatever boho, like not like like tumbleweed and dandelion, or moss and cedar, or like there's no life to it. There's no like authenticity to that. I'm like, get out of here. I don't like it. So I think this is really
all right. The name before, it's funny that you say boho, because then the original name and what like I really wanted to go with, but then I like listened to other people that told me like, I wanted it to be and I'm a total dork, so like I wanted it to be lovers and tree huggers. So it like says it in my profile, so because I like couldn't let it go. But yeah, that's what it was originally going to be, and then like everyone that I talked to was like, I don't know. So yeah, I went with.
I mean, it's still cool that I noticed you had that in your profile, because that's what you cater to for the most part. I think and I want to talk about the stuff that you curate, because I am obsessed with everything you find. And like we were saying earlier, I think you're in a location that you can find really, really cool stuff that isn't picked over, that's probably been lived in for years and years and years, and or not. You find, like, I've been noticing too, you don't do it as much, but I see other sellers being like, dead stock this, dead stock that. And I'm like, what's dead stock? And now I realize, like, oh, so does that mean that they're not making it anymore? Like,
that's what, it's funny because like, like it's been a huge learning curve, and I didn't even know what it meant in the beginning. Because I literally just started selling own clothes out of my closet. Like that's how it started. I was just doing it. Like, oh, I need some cash. Like while I'm not working, like that's how it all started. I just started doing it. And then I was like, oh, shoot, I think I could do this for a living. So I had a big learning curve. But no, it's like the tags were still on it. It hasn't been used. So it doesn't necessarily mean the tags have to be on it, but it hasn't been used.
Okay.
So yeah, it's dead stock.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not making it anymore either.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, again, I think the things that you find, I wonder if they like speak to you at all, because, well, one thing I want to say about your page too is that I love that you actually model this stuff. I love to see it on somebody, and it just makes me like say, oh, okay, that it gives me a visual of like, this is what it's going to look like, rather than it being on a mannequin or just like hanging somewhere. I love that you do that. And it seems like almost, not in every sense, not in everything that you curate, but a lot of the stuff seems like stuff that you would wear yourself. So like, do these things like relate to you and how you present yourself or how you identify?
I would love to say like, I don't care what people think of me, but like, I think we all do in some sort of aspect.
Sure.
Here, I feel like, I don't know, like I'm not, if I were somewhere else in a big city, I would probably wear everything that I'm putting up. You know what I mean? But I don't like people to like stare. And so like a lot of the stuff, like the real loud stuff, I'm probably not going to wear here.
Yeah.
Unless like I go to Detroit for the night or something like that. But, during like the COVID and all that, I started getting onto this path where I was like buying what I thought would sell. And I got to be like a huge chore of like listing it, having it sit around. I didn't like looking at it. Like it became more and more of a job than me like actually enjoying it. So now going forward for like the last year and a half, 2 years, I've definitely been just getting stuff that I would wear or I'd want to like dress my friend in or whatever,
Yeah.
So that's definitely what I go for now. That's for sure. And then I just like geek out on the really old stuff sometimes, like really old, like denim and overalls and workwear and stuff like that. I just love like the history of all that stuff too. So
yeah, I think there's so many stories in each of the pieces that you find. And, you had mentioned like, judgment of other people and, how we present ourselves. Like, you don't want people to stare or whatever. Like, I totally relate to that. But like with that and with becoming your own boss and having your own business, was there ever a point where like you felt like a fraud or had imposter syndrome?
Yes, for sure. Just like anytime I get like any little like recognition, like I would always be like, it just like seemed silly because I felt like people that knew me forever, I don't know, it felt like,
They didn't know you as that. Like,
yeah, yeah. And I've changed like so dramatically. Anytime I feel like you change like dramatically, I think that you do end up feeling that way a little bit because then the people that have known you forever, especially in like, I think a smaller town, like it's not okay for you to change. They don't want you to. So I definitely feel that way. And then going back to like the modeling aspect of it, thanks for like saying that too, like right there, like when I quit drinking and I became like obsessed with what I was taking in because they had said like, oh, your next cancer will be liver. So like you have a 98% chance of liver cancer in the first 5 years is what they told me.
jeez.
And so like I became like obsessed with what I was like taking in. And it wasn't like obviously it was a conscious decision, but it got to like a dangerous level where I was like, underweight. And my doctors, were talking to me about it and everything. And then to go from that, I've gained like a ton of weight. And so like it's like very like talking about identity, it like seems like sometimes I feel like in the last 5 years, because I've just been working so hard at the shop, because I want to move out of where I moved, like living and live out in the middle of nowhere. And there's like things I want to do like in my life that like I feel like just where I want to end up.
Sure.
And so your identity gets so intertwined when you're doing this. I talked with another girl at Thrift Shark about it before, about like how we need to like figure out how to like separate so much of our identity from the shop, because it's like ends up being kind of like hurtful, because then I had to be so hard on myself, like, oh well, now you've gained weight, and like, you have people online are going to say tons of things. People tell you, like women would say, like, make comments like, oh, like you gained a lot of weight.
Stop.
Oh, well, that's awesome. And it was only locals, of course. Like I never get any like backlash when it's not locals, but like, yeah, things like that. And then like when I was skinny, I was too skinny, so your identity gets like really intertwined. Like I was nervous to do the podcast because like I like sat there like thinking about it, and I was like, who am I anymore? Like I've just become the seductive duck. Like people introduce me as that sometimes, So yeah, I think that's definitely something that I need to like kind of like separate a little bit more, and like, but it's just funny because that's all I do.
Yeah.
Like I only do the shop stuff and just like hang out with my dog and at the park every day. But like, yeah, I don't do much else than the shop. So it's kind of hard because I have become like the shop.
Well,
So it's a little weird.
if this makes you feel any better from me viewing you, and the stuff that you put out there and your social media, I just thought you were the coolest. Like,
Oh,
I loved like everything that you wear. Even now, your outfit's so cool. And I could tell you're a dog lover too. And I see more than that. I see more than you just being this vintage seller. I feel like also like in my perspective, again, I don't mean to be like projecting at all, but like it seems like, oh man, that must be so cool to like go and just like find these treasures, and it must feel so satisfying when you find something that you've been looking for, or something that you think is going to be so cool. Oh, maybe I'll keep this for myself, or maybe I'll list this or whatever. It just outwardly what you put out there, and again, I know that it's probably internally very different. To me, you exude confidence, and like that you just have this like really cool, creative, artistic vision of the things that you find and curate, like literally curate. But also, yeah, I could definitely see the struggle in that. Like myself included, doing this podcast, I was so nervous. I'm still nervous to be talking about things and like having like, oh, cool, people from like my past are going to listen to it and maybe they're judging me, but you know what? They're not saying anything to me. And that sucks that people in your town have been like saying stuff, because that's so rude. Like, I don't understand.
yeah.
The internet's the worst. That's another thing I was like nervous about doing this, is the internet. It's terrible. People are terrible on there. And I can't believe, and I'm sorry that you've, experienced that. And I'm sure hopefully you could think back to those comments and think about the person saying that and be like, that person's so sad. Like they're so sad.
Right.
Who's
Yeah.
saying that?
You just have to come down to it and just like kind of put yourself in their shoes and be like, what could possibly possess a person? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, you have to like, it sounds kind of like an asshole, but like you just have to kind of be like, I'm grateful I'm not that miserable.
Mhm. Mhm.
That I like think it's okay to talk to someone like that.
Yeah.
About anything. Like, you don't know. We shouldn't talk about I was gonna say woman, but really obviously anyone's appearance,
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm over it, but like it's just the internet's a crazy place. Like it really is. Cause like if you look, I'm not present at all.
Mhm.
Like otherwise, as like Chrissy Manders. So like there's no presence. So like yeah, that was something I definitely had to get over was the anxiety of posting every day because like I felt like it was like inviting the world in to like my little bubble
Mhm.
that I've created. So yeah, that's exactly what it is. I've created a bubble around myself
Mhm.
in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And like I like don't let anyone fuck with my bubble. And then like inviting the internet in on a daily basis, it's just like kind of crazy. But I'd say for the most part, compared to what I've seen and talked with other vintage sellers, women, you know, that's nothing compared to like what a lot of these people have experienced.
Yeah.
So
And also just
yeah.
like the new age that we live in where you have to be on social media and you have to create content and this and that. Like for me, it's exhausting. Like I just want to I want to have good conversations with people. I want to be myself. And
Mhm.
I am doing that. But the fact that now I have to like talk on my stories or post like different things and create all these new things, it just adds a whole other layer to trying to get something off the ground. And especially for you, since you said that you don't pop up in town and your business is solely online for the most part, that's hard. There's a whole other job in itself. And you are so consistent. You post every day. You post a million stories, you're making posts. And that's a whole other thing I wanted to talk to you about, the algorithm, because sometimes I don't see yours and I see them in your story. I'm like, what is happening? Why is that? Like, I
Yeah.
interact with you so much. Why are you not at the top of my feed? Like, I don't. I hate having to like figure out social media on top of like figuring out your creative endeavors, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, the algorithm, like, I will never figure it out. I mean, I can hardly figure out how to make a reel, so, like, it's not something I'm ever gonna figure out, we not none of us can, but yeah, it's a bastard, that algorithm, I don't know how to get on top of it, and then, like, we have all these little tricks and things like that, and then, like, you know, I'm Polish, I'm from the Midwest, we don't ask for help. So, like, like, it takes a lot for me to have to be, like, on my stories or something, like, "Can you do this?" Like, actually, I even saw you do it, and you're like, "I hate doing this, like, can you, like" thing, like, it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, like because you wanna succeed on your own without having to ask, like, "Can you help me do this?" But, yeah, I mean, I think at the same time, I give major props to people that
Yeah.
have no problem asking for help. I think that's great quality. So yeah.
I'm right there with you, sister. I'm Irish Italian raised Catholic, so you
Oh,
do not
Catholic
ask
too,
for
yeah.
help. Yeah, you
Yeah.
you sit in your misery, you wallow in your misery, you don't talk about it, you don't ask for help, you just go through it and whatever if it's hard and that's it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Mhm.
yeah, I hate asking and it feels desperate. It feels inauthentic, but that's what we have to do, and
Mhm.
that sucks. But also I think that the people that not everyone that is successful in social media, but I think a lot of them are doing it in a really inauthentic way and, like, also paying to, like, get likes and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
so, we should give ourselves some grace in that because it's not easy. It's not meant to work in our favor.
Right. We have to give people a break too, I think a lot of time because like, at least I know a lot of people, like, in my actual life, like, don't realize that, like, liking something, things that cost no money actually help? Like, if you like
Mhm.
something or share it or, like, at least not here, the average Joe doesn't know that, like, that's doing it. So,
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
you have to be like, "Can you do this for me?" Because it actually does help, and it takes
Mhm.
2 seconds, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said today, on the episode I just released, I'm like, it's not gonna like show that you liked it, and no one else is gonna know that you liked my podcast. So just hit those 5 stars. It's literally not gonna do anything to you.
Yeah, yeah, and no one's gonna judge you for listening to me. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Lately, I have been obsessed with going to estate sales. Estate sales here in Los Angeles, if you can imagine, like some of them, one, I just like going into people's houses.
Mhm.
Like, I've gone to like crazy places in Beverly Hills. I went to one, it was in Beverly Hills last weekend, and then like Pasadena and like all these other places. And these houses are beautiful and also time capsules, like complete mid century 70s time capsules that have not changed. The people have lived there forever. And it is the coolest experience. And it also is a little weird knowing that likely this person died and you're going through their closet and like you're like just like in what their lives were. It's so strange. Also, I'm such an asshole. Anytime anyone compliments me on something I get in a estate sale, I'm like, thanks, it's a dead woman.
Yeah.
It's so bad. But also, my husband and I have been in our home for 7 years now, and when we were going through the house hunting experience, there are some weird, haunted ass, crazy places that we've gone to. So I can only imagine that maybe you've also had some really like weird encounters and like weird things as far as like when on your like thrifting endeavors. Like,
Oh,
do you
for
do
sure.
estate sales and stuff?
Yeah, I do estate sales. Like, I love estate sales. I love, like, going into the house. And then, like, a lot of the times, just depending on, like, what company's doing it or whatever, you'll get, like, history of the actual people, which I love. Like, I love to get, like, the history of the clothes. Like, a couple weeks ago, I went to one and I got these, like, real cool, like, patchwork, like, cowboy boots. And, like, everyone loved them. They sold right away. And,
I saw those.
when I was checking out, they were like, "Oh, do you know who this person is?" And I was like, I feel like my dad has, like, talked about this person." It ended up being my dad always just has, like, these little sayings that he, like, walks around the house just, like, saying, like so, like, one of his sayings was, like, this guy's name, like, if someone was, like, sharp, he'd be like and so, I, like, called him right away and was like, "I was just at, yada yada's estate sale." And he was like, "No way." And so, yeah, it was because the ladies at the estate sale were like, "Oh, he was like the biggest playboy. He owned restaurant. He was a restaurateur. He owned restaurants on the docks." And like, it's just fun to then be like, like thinking like, "Oh, well, these boots have probably seen some fun times," So I love
Yeah.
hearing the histories of the stories. Yeah, I love estate sales.
I bet yours are so much more authentic too, because one of the ones I went to last weekend was the one in Beverly Hills. The people running the estate sale were like, this was a Persian couple. They were super wealthy, loved lavish lifestyle, had all designer stuff. And by the time I had gone there, it was like the second or third day of the sale, like the last day, so everything was picked over. But I'm in this person's closet, and other people are digging through, and they're like, "Oh, these people are slobs. There's stains all over their shirts, and this and that." I'm like, fuck. Like, why are you being so terrible? Like, this is uncomfortable as it is. And now, like, it brings out, especially in Los Angeles here, Chrissy, like, it brings out such weird people. But a lot of people that also, like, are doing what you're doing, and they'll bring it to, we have a huge flea market here called the Rose Bowl Flea Market
Oh, yeah.
that happens once a month. Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna
so,
get there someday.
you know, yeah, you will. But people like you'll just like take everything and like it's a good deal, but also like have some respect. These were people's lives, and who knows if their family members are there at the moment or whatever. It just feels there's something really odd about estate sales in that sense where it's just like I kind of like maybe I'm just like a sensitive person, but I'm just like I want to like honor them in a weird way, or just like be respectful
Yeah,
of being in
yeah.
their place. Like you're walking into somewhere like someone's whole entire life where they
Mhm.
live their lives, and it's just like a really cool window into how certain people live, and it's so interesting to me. It seems like so like primal in some weird way,
Yeah, 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 I like connect with, like, elderly people more than I do any other, like, demographic, just because like, I don't know what it is. I think I've just, like, been through a bunch, and then, like, I've thought about, like, death a lot, and I've thought about, like, what's my legacy.
Yeah.
I've, like, come close to it, not just with cancer, but then, like, addiction problems and things like that. Like, I've just, like, come close to it so many times that, like, I feel like I don't know, they're wise. They just, like, so, like, yeah, I see it definitely can seem like a crazy forager situation. Cause like, I mean, here, even like right at the beginning of the sale, cause I'll like camp out, it's very like, people are like elbowing you and stuff like that. It can be like
Yeah.
that. And it's just, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll get in there if I have to, but like no one ever thinks about that stuff. I don't feel like very much, like in a
Yeah.
respectful way. But that's why I'm happy I do get a lot of things from people who are still living. And then they get to see it go somewhere else. Like, and they'll be so surprised about like what I'm picking up. They'll be like,
Mhm.
oh, I wore that, and I just like love hearing those type of stories. Like, oh, I wore that when I went on my honeymoon in Hawaii or whatever, and it's like the greatest stories because then you get to like connect with them and like hear where they wore these things because like I'm quite surprised sometimes of the things I find here in Toledo, like that these people were wearing, but people dress sharper way back in the day for sure. So,
Oh, yeah.
and then like
Oh, yeah.
on vacation, it was like, but yeah, the weirder the better is where I pick.
Yeah.
So we'll do, what's that called? Antique Roadshow? No, not Antique Roadshow. The Pickers, American Pickers style. Like we're like,
Oh.
I love when the weather's nicer because, it's not nice here except for a few months. So like right now we're coming up on garage sale season and, I'll just put Dolly, my dog in the car and we'll just like leave for the entire day. And I'll stop at places that just have a lot of junk and be like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, do you have any clothes that you want to sell?" Yeah, I don't know. I'm just fearless. I guess I don't care. I don't. People aren't like, "Aren't you cool?" I'm like, well, not really. I have a pit bull and mace, but like, but I used to send people my location, but I don't even do that anymore. Yeah, I have a couple that's like, an hour or so away, and it's like a nice drive. Like, you're driving out to, a body of water and things like that. And I met them a few years by just stopping at their house and being
Hmm.
like, you have a lot of stuff. Do you have any clothes? And I ended up like buying like his mother's wedding dress that was just like a beautiful, just like straight satin, like slip dress type situation, like from the 30s, like things like that. And they're like elderly couple, and they're like, I can't wait to like, I know they're gonna be outside because I'm gonna like definitely go that way. And I promised I might bring them some pop brownies, like they're just love like connecting with people in that way. Like, so sometimes I feel like that's why I can find stuff because I'm being genuine about it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I'm not just like being like that, like crazy, just like, "Ah, you gotta get it out." But
Thrift shark, like you said earlier.
yeah, yeah. Lynn is great. But yeah, that's her shopping. But like, yeah,
Oh, I can sense that. I can sense that in the stuff that you do. Like, it seems like you genuinely are stoked on the things that you find, and you seem like a very genuine person yourself. And that sounds like such a really sweet relationship that you've developed. I'm sure they get excited to see you too, and that's. I love that. I love that. I would love to have like a second pair of like grandparents or like grandparents again.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
that. That's really really sweet. I love that. Sounds like you do have a good sense of who you are, though. Like, and I know that coming on to here, it's probably made you reflect a lot.
Right.
And again, thank you for your participation and trusting a complete stranger. But as far as like your identity goes, which parts of your identity make you most proud, and which have you struggled with the most?
It might be the same either way. I'd say that I've lived through everything that I've had to, and I'm still here. I think
Yeah.
it's just a lot, like sometimes, but at the same time, it's made me possibly like a little bit hardened where I don't trust people. I'm not vulnerable with people. Probably need to do some therapy for sure. Just like it's not a breeding ground for close relationships, that's for sure. Yeah, I'd say it's probably the same in both ways that I'm like proud of myself in one aspect, but then in the same aspect, it's like it's hard for me to let those things go and actually like trust people or let people in or whatever.
Yeah, in a way, I admire that because me being an open book and an oversharer, I wish that I had the ability to know when to rein it in and to be able to not share some parts of myself, not share all of my dreams and endeavors and not share all of my feelings. I got a lot of feelings too. And, being a little bit more reserved in that way, I think is a skill and something really good that like you said, you can be proud of it. It can be challenging, but also it's something that's like made you who you are. And, just reflecting on those things too, the challenges that you've been through are some that's like a lot of people go through, but some won't experience, especially at a young age like you did. And I can only imagine the effect that it's had on you and, how you go about the world.
I'm just not good at doing things that are like taking care of myself, Like I always put like everything else, like I'm always in survival mode, like I gotta have a roof over my head. So like I'm always like putting all that above everything else. So
I understand that.
work in progress. I can be an overshare, that's for sure. But I do it. I think I do it because I want people to know why I'm so weird. Like there's a reason why I'm this weird, and it's because of this, this, and this. You know what I mean?
And then afterwards, you're like, why did I
I
say
definitely
that?
do it because like, yeah, exactly. And then I'm like, I'm so sorry, and I'll like,
Right.
do that whole bit. So yeah.
I understand that feeling completely. But you do have a dog, and it seems like you're a dog lover. And I feel like dog lovers and animal lovers, it's like an outlet in a way, and it's a way that you can like just be vulnerable and be yourself by loving this sweet little creature that has no judgment whatsoever. And I've found that, I mean, now I have 2 cats against my will. They were strays, and, but I love them. And I've always connected with horses too. I grew up riding horses, and I feel like just our connection with animals too, especially, is just like something that allows us to just like kind of relax and be in the moment and just like be okay with things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could not. Yeah, I never had a pet my entire lifetime, and then I don't know. I guess it's probably like 6 years. My boyfriend at the time, we were gonna get a dog together, and he got me the dog almost to just like be like you need this dog.
Mhm.
So I got it against my will, kind of, because I wasn't supposed to have it in my apartment. And I mean, I ended up like moving just because of her, which was great. But anyways, she is just like the greatest thing ever. I'm so happy. I just like without having a pet like my entire lifetime, I didn't even know what I was getting into. Like I just had no idea even that like how much personality.
Mhm.
Like everything she did, I was like, "Did you see her do that?" And everyone would be like, "Yeah, that's what a dog does." And I was just like, "Oh man." So it was just like a period of amazement for like years. And then yeah. So yeah, I love like I think having a dog was definitely like it sounds silly, but like one of the best things that I've ever done. So for
Oh,
sure.
does a boy or girl?
It's Dolly, it's a girl.
Oh, Dolly. Oh, that's the best
Yeah.
name. Does
Yeah.
Dolly go with you when you're thrifting things?
Not always. I'm like super protective of her. I won't like leave her in the car for like too long or anything. Just like when I'm out on my like country kind of like rides, she'll go because I'm never far from the car. I'll just pull up to a barn or whatever. So she goes on those type of adventures. I wish she could camp out with me like at the estate sales.
Yeah.
But then when I go in, I would be a nervous wreck. Like, is she okay?
Yeah.
Is there someone messing with her? So yeah, but she actually like my dad is like not a dog person. Like that's why I never had a pet. Just like always just like, oh, dogs. And they were so mad at me when I first got a dog because she was a pit bull.
Mhm.
And they were like,
Of course.
didn't know anything about it. And like, oh, you can't believe you did this. And her and my dad are like absolute best friends. So like,
Of course they are.
yeah, so like she'll go over there, almost like the daily. I'll just take her over there for a few hours while I'm like out running around doing stuff. And yeah, so they're like best friends. So that worked out great.
Oh, Dolly needs to go to Dollywood.
Yes, she does. That's what I named her after because yeah,
I assumed.
yeah,
I hoped.
yeah. It's just funny because she's such like a brute, and then that's her name. So
Oh, that's so sweet. Also, if I can ask you a favor,
sure.
when you're on these, on like your treasure hunting, as I like to put it, I have been searching high and low to find, I know you look primarily for clothes, but I need a Magic Eye poster from the 90s. Do you
Okay.
remember those?
Yes.
I have been looking for an authentic Magic Eye. I think they're called Stereogram, whatever. And they have some on eBay, but I also just like want to find one.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want to walk into one of these estate sales and like it be
Like,
rolled up in a corner and I unfurl it and it's like, and my husband's like, we're not hanging them. I'm like, yes, we are. They're beautiful. And there's one on eBay that I really love the colors, but it's like the image is Christ. I'm like,
oh yeah.
I'd rather have like dolphins jumping or something like that.
Totally.
So if you ever come across one, please let me
Oh,
know.
I'm on it. Like, I love a challenge. It's like one of my favorite things is like a challenge. I love, like, it's so weird. Like, it's what, like, a lot of people do this. It's not just me, but we always think that like we can like manifest things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're always like, I mean, I swear I've done it at least twice. Like a Nirvana shirt. Like, those of you aren't coming by. You know what I mean? You're not just coming by those. And like, I manifested it and I like found it like 2 days later after I was like, man, wouldn't that be cool, you know? And so
That's
it's weird. I swear we sometimes manifest. You can't always do it, obviously.
sure.
That'd be crazy. We're just like taking over the world. But yeah.
But that must feel so good. That must feel so good. Oh my goodness. The satisfaction of finding that thing. It's like,
Yeah.
so exciting.
Totally.
Well, to wrap things up here, I like to bring it back to the first question I asked you, which is, how you identify yourself. And after having this conversation, do you think you'd still introduce yourself in the same way?
Yeah. Just because, I mean, maybe after this conversation, I've just thought more that it's okay that most of my identity has become like my actual work. And I think that going to change in the future, like I said, I'm just grinding and grinding right now every single day to get to where I'm going. So once I get to where I'm going, I think that I'll have like the free time to like really hone in like who I really am, like as a person after all of that's happened, and like I'll have the time to like really be able to do like the things that really bring me happiness. That's because sometimes I struggle with the seductive duck thing because it's material. And like, if you came to my home, you would see like I'm like not like a materialistic person. So even my clothes, like I end up selling them. I don't keep a lot. So I struggle with the materialism of my job. So I think that in the future, I'm definitely going to be doing some things that aren't so material driven. That's for sure. Once I get to where I'm going.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're an artist and a creative, and I love and appreciate what you do. And it's been so nice getting to know you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Identity Shockwave podcast, hosted by me, Lori Vaitzig. Catch us next time for a new episode with a different guest that is sure to keep the conversation interesting. A big thank you to Let Me Crazy for letting us use their music. I'll catch you later.